everybody. So today I'm going to teach you how to make an authentic homemade Alfredo sauce, and it only takes 5 to 8 minutes. Now when I say an authentic Alfredo sauce, I am not talking about the thick, gloppy calorie bomb that you get in the States at these chain Italian food places. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a rich, thin, gorgeous, creamy sauce that tastes fabulous. Now let's get cooking. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about pasta. Now in this video I am going to be making Alfredo with linguine, and there's a reason for that. When you have a thin, beautiful sauce, you can use a much thinner pasta. The beauty of a thinner pasta is it cooks faster, and we love that. Now let's talk a little bit about preparing your pasta. One of the things you want to use is a large cooking pot. Way bigger than you think you're going to need for your pasta. And in this pot I have 2 quarts of water. We're only going to be cooking 8 ounces of pasta. Now most pasta, especially like linguines and fettuccines, they come in a 1-pound box. We're going to be cooking half of this box. So that's not a lot of pasta, but you still want a lot of water in order for that pasta to cook evenly and again quickly. So go ahead and use quite a bit of water. I also put in 1 teaspoon salt for every quart of water. So I'm going to go ahead and add my salt. Now the salt is to flavor your pasta. You know, some people don't do this, but believe me, you really notice it when your pasta does not have salt in the water. This really helps. And you're also going to be using some of this pasta water later if you need to thin down your sauce. So be sure and hang on to this pasta water until you're completely done cooking your dish. But let's put the salt in and get it on to boil. Now again, you will not be putting the pasta in until this is at a full boil. Now you're going to want about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of small tomatoes. These are tomatoes out of my garden, so they're various sizes, but you can get the little tiny small tomatoes at your grocery store. One thing you don't want to use is a large tomato. Large tomatoes have a lot of juice in them. And if you use that in your sauce, it will change the color and flavor of your sauce a little bit. These little bitty tomatoes hold together really well, and so they look really beautiful in your sauce and they taste great. Now you're also going to be using Parmesan cheese, and you need to use real Parmesan cheese. Not the stuff you put on pizza, not the powdered stuff, none of that. You want to use real grated Parmesan cheese, and it's much better if you get a piece like this and grate it yourself, because a lot of times the pre-grated stuff has coating on it that you don't want in your sauce. They put the coating on there so it won't stick together. But by using a piece of good Parmesan, it makes your sauce that much better. Good Alfredo sauce only has 3 ingredients: butter, cream, and Parmesan. So you want to have those 3 ingredients be super high quality. And when you grate Parmesan, you use the little bitty holes that are on the side. You don't use the giant ones on the front, you use the little bitty holes on the side. That's for hard cheeses. See how fluffy and delicious it is when you grate it yourself? That'll make a wonderful sauce. Now I usually wait to start my sauce until my pasta is already in the water cooking. Because again, this sauce comes together super quickly. 5 to 8 minutes is all it takes. And you don't want your sauce sitting aside getting cold while you're waiting on your pasta. You're going to start this with a medium heat. To our pan, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of butter. Pure Alfredo only has 3 ingredients. It has butter, heavy whipping cream, and Parmesan. That's it. There's nothing else in Alfredo. A lot of people are used to it having other things in it. So what you're going to see me make today is the base Alfredo. And then I'm going to be adding things like garlic and tomato and spinach. because those are things that I really love and they make a really great sauce, especially if you're going to use it in a dish by itself or even as a side dish. Now you'll notice for this dish I am using a spatula with a flat edge. When you're making a cream sauce, you want to really be careful that it does not burn. And having this sort of spatula allows you to move that sauce around the bottom of your pan, and it's way easier to keep it from burning. If you were just using a spoon or something of that nature, you can see that it's way harder to keep things from burning on the bottom of the pan. So I always use a spatula with a flat edge when I'm making any of these types of sauces. It really helps you out. Now as soon as your butter is melted, see how melty it is? And really warm. You don't want it to brown. You just want it to be melted and warm. See how it's bubbling? That's perfect. You're going to add heavy cream. Not half and half, not milk, heavy cream. This is 3/4 cup. When you are making Alfredo, there is a specific ratio that you need to follow in order for your sauce to hold together. And it will come together. You see it's separate right now. It's going to come together. And that ratio is a tablespoon of butter for every 1/4 cup heavy cream. So if you wanted to double this recipe, you'd use 6 tablespoons of butter and 1.5 cups of heavy cream. So just remember that ratio. That is really important. You don't want to wing it on that one aspect. Now you want to cook this for about 3 to 4 minutes. You want this to reduce a little bit and combine before you add in your cheese. And I know some of you may be thinking, well, you haven't put any seasoning in it. Parmesan is extremely salty cheese. You already have your pasta that's going to be salted because there's salt in the water. And of course you can add other seasonings if you choose, but honestly it really doesn't need it. Now you see how that's reduced just a little bit and how creamy it's becoming. Now this is really bubbling kind of fast, so I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit because that's a little bit hot. Now to this I'm going to add our cheese. I'm going to reserve a little bit of this cheese back, maybe a tablespoon or so, but the rest goes in the pot. You see how creamy this has become with that cheese in there? That is perfect. This is supposed to be a thin white sauce. So this is perfect. And remember, if it starts getting too thick, you can add a little bit of your pasta water that is hot and salted into this sauce. This is a beautiful sauce. And again, I'm going to turn it down just a wee bit. We want it to just start to simmer now. So we have the heat a little bit lower. Beautiful, beautiful sauce. To this, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of pureed garlic. Now I use garlic puree that comes in a tube like this. It's very handy. I don't have to chop up garlic. If you want to use garlic, you need to mince it very fine, and you need to use at least a clove of garlic, okay? Now we are going to add our tomatoes. We are going to add about 2 ounces of spinach. Now 2 ounces is about a good sized handful out of a bag of spinach. So it's about this much. Most bags of spinach that you see in the grocery store are 8 ounces. And 2 ounces is about 1/4 of that bag. Now this may seem like a lot of spinach. It's actually not. As I'm sure you know, spinach cooks down to nothing. So this is actually not very much at all. But you want to be sure your Alfredo sauce is not burning and mix it in there well. And again, if yours is too thick, add a little bit of pasta water. Now I'm going to take my ladle. My pasta is over here cooking, but I'm going to dip out just a little bit of this pasta water and add it to my sauce. And mine needs, I think, maybe about a 1/4 cup, a little less. But be really conservative, add it bit by bit, because it will continue to reduce and cook down. Now, if something happens and you feel like your sauce is too watery, you have two options. You can cook it a little longer and let it reduce a little bit more, which is the preferred option, by the way. Or you can add more cheese. This is one of those things where more cheese isn't necessarily better because you want a specific ratio, and Parmesan is very, very salty. So I would suggest that you just let it cook down a little bit more instead of adding more cheese, but that's your call. Now I'm going to turn this on to low, very low, so this sauce will remain warm and toasty. Now you know your pasta is done when you take a piece of the pasta out of the pot and you taste it. It's no longer real chewy and crunchy. You don't want to cook it until it's mush. That's always a mistake. Because your pasta is going to absorb this sauce as long as you take it off the heat and put it into your sauce when the pasta is just done. Al dente, as they say. Okay, our pasta is now al dente, and the pasta only took about 3 minutes longer than the sauce did. So this is really a 10-minute to 15-minute at the most dish. And what I do is I take my pasta right out of the water. I don't use a strainer or anything like that. And I put it right over into my sauce. And then what you want to do is you want to toss it. You want to toss it. You see how beautiful that is? And how silky it is up against your linguine. That is a beautiful Alfredo. Absolutely beautiful. Now I like to let my pasta sit in the sauce for just a minute so it soaks up some of that sauce. And then I take it and I place it into a bowl. Now this is easily either one big serving or 2 small servings. But here again, if you're cooking for more than one person, you can easily double this recipe. Now we're going to add our last little bit of Parmesan right to the top of our dish. There you have it, homemade Alfredo linguine for one.